Hello? Yes?
Because Pendulum is the best deck of all time, baby! And best deck! Let's go!
So I was trying to come up with a small analogy that best describes the Trickstar archetype to anyone who may not have played the archetype before. And the best I came up with is it's basically like forcing your opponent to pay a tax to play Yu-Gi-Oh! A life point tax. The goal of Trickstars isn't exactly to stop your opponent from playing the game, at least not initially. Its entire goal is to make it so that playing the game now has a cost attached to it for everything you do, until eventually you no longer have enough life points to pay the cost. It's kind of like playing Monopoly, only you never actually get to buy anything, you just get to experience the joys of landing on other people's stuff and continuously paying stupidly small amounts of rent until bankruptcy. Introducing Trickstar. Now before I go through the deck, just a reminder that if you're enjoying any of the content you are watching or find any of it useful, to please drop a like on the video down below and consider subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. I make a buttload of content on Master Duel, including free-to-play builds, meta stuff, memes, guides, basically everything, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Also, I just want to briefly mention that I'll probably be streaming some ladder games with this very deck list either a few hours after this video goes live, or tomorrow if I run out of time, on this very channel. So if you want to see a bit of extra gameplay of me playing this list, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you know when I go live. Alright, so this deck has two halves to it that synergize with each other through the small amount of chipping burn damage each side does. The first half is the Trickstar cards. Trickstar is an archetype based around small, low-level monsters that generally like to burn your opponent for a small amount of damage whenever they do a particular thing. For example, with Candina, they take 200 damage every time they use a spell or a trap card. Candina is the main Trickstar monster, and on summon it can search for any Trickstar card, including Lycoris, which can simply add Candina back to hand for later use, or either Lilybell or Corobane, which can special summon themselves to make link summoning very easy. On top of that, it can also be used to search for both the Trickstar field spell and trap card. Light Stage, which is a very powerful search card, can be used to lock down back row and inflict more burn damage whenever a Trickstar card inflicts damage. Reincarnation can banish your opponent's entire hand and make them redraw the same number of cards. It can also be banished from the graveyard to target one Trickstar monster in there and special summon it. This card has a very nasty synergy with Droll and Lockbird, as you'll see in one of the gameplays. The other half of the deck is Windwitch. Windwitch is basically built around a one card combo starting with Ice Spell. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, inflicting 500 damage in the process, then special summon a Windwitch monster straight from the deck, which will be the tuner monster, Glass Bell. This card on summon will add a Windwitch monster from deck to hand, which in most cases will be the other tuner monster, Snowbell. If you control 2 or more wind monsters and no non-wind monsters, you can special summon this card from hand. A wind synchro monster summoned with this card as material cannot be destroyed by card effects. This board will then let you summon into a level 5 synchro, normally Winterbell, then into one of your 2 big boss monsters of Crystal Wing or Diamond Bell, both of which I'll go through during the gameplay once I've actually summoned them. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the decklist portion of the video. The rest of the video will be gameplay with commentary showcasing the list in action. Remember, if you're enjoying the video or finding any of the content useful, to please drop a like down below and consider subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. Enjoy the gameplay. Alright, let's get into it. So today's replays are going to be a little bit less on the content side of things. They're not going to be all that exciting. Most of these replays are just showcasing how the deck actually works and the few starters the deck actually has. Each of them showcasing a different starter or a different way the deck plays. Alright. Now keep in mind also that this deck isn't exactly the most competitive top tier deck around. It's still probably good enough to climb, as there's not really a whole lot of things that aren't good enough to climb in this game, but if you're looking for something that's like super top tier or tournament worthy, this probably isn't it. It's more of a for fun deck for people that like Trickstar or like Windwitch. Alright, or like the playstyle of either of them. So we're searching for Candina. Candina on summon can search for any Trickstar card from my deck. So we're searching for Light Sage. Activating Light Sage, which is to search for another Trickstar card, this time going for Lilybell. I think this one only search for Trickstar monsters though. Lilybell, when added to hand via a card effect, can then, or when it's just added to hand except by drawing it, can then special summon itself. Corobane, if we have no cards on board, can just be special summoned straight to the board but on its own. This then lets me go into Masquerena, set some stuff, and pass the turn. So the value of this play is now we have Masquerena on board. This allows me to quick effect during my opponent's turn Link Summon into a Link 3, which would be a Knightmare Unicorn. So during my opponent's turn, I can quick effect, summon this guy, remove something my opponent controls. And the monster summon with this card is also immune to destruction effects too, which is pretty good. This isn't like, the only reason you'd go for this play is if you just happen to open something like a Corobane, so you can just make a special summon on top of your standard Trickstar combo of just summoning this guy. Otherwise, normally you're going to be searching for one of the other Trickstar cards, the little red one that you add to hand, and then return this card back to hand for later use. But if you happen to open a Corobane, you can just go for this play as well. Also, it's important to note that that's not the only use of Corobane. Corobane is also a card that when in hand can be used as a hand trap to buff my Trickstar monster attack by, I think, 2000? 2000? It doubles it actually, I think. Yeah, I should really know that, but yeah. It doubles the attack, so that's another use of it too. You can just use it as a hand trap to protect your Trickstar on board. But doing a little play like this is, I don't know, feels kind of nice. Especially considering we already have like disruption set up as well, so. My opponent activates a spell card. Whenever my opponent activates a spell or trap card, Trickstar Candina does 200 damage to them. And this card does 200 damage to my opponent whenever they take damage from a Trickstar card. So just get a little bit of burn damage there. It's a little bit of chip damage. Which you'll notice, especially in the next replay, really adds up. If your opponent activates a lot of spell cards or a lot of special summons, a lot of adding cards to hand, they will just burn to death. I'm not going to activate any of my negates or anything yet, because we're waiting for stuff that's actually worth negating. Especially considering the more he summons, the more draws I get, so. We had Droll Lockbird. We luckily drew into a Droll Lockbird, which is really good in this situation because he's already added cards to hand, so we can activate it now to stop this supplier searching for the Chimera negate card, and also just stopping him doing anything for the rest of his turn in regards to adding cards to hand. It does stop my Maxx from continuing to give me cards, but I think it's probably worth it at this point, especially considering I've drawn enough. I've also got plenty of like back row and stuff set up to disrupt anything he does anyway. He then tries to go into Doo-Doo, again still ignoring this. And then he goes into Apollosa. Honestly, I don't know why he didn't just try to like go into battle phase and try to get my Masquerena's effect out early. Because I don't really know sure, like, I still have double back row set, so it's very unlikely this is actually going to go off. Either way, tries to summon Apollosa, of course, we're just going to, that's when we're going to Solemn. And he has like nothing left, and he just concedes. Alright, game 2. Now this isn't exactly going to show off a really good start per se, it just shows off a really nice, really shows off the Trickstar burn damage and how annoying it can be. Because we actually get a pretty bricky starting hand. We didn't draw any of our like Trickstar search cards, we didn't draw any of our Windwitch cards. One of the Sunable ones anyway, I don't think. Yeah, so really bricky. You never want to draw this card, because obviously, like it says, it can only be special summoned when it's added except by drawing it. So we just kind of got a Lycoris on board, which is not that great. So, yeah, not great. But we did at least draw, you know, Solemn. We also got some Ash Blossoms. Lycoris, whenever my opponent adds a card to hand, takes 200 damage. Which really does add up over time. I'm going to be negating this. I normally wouldn't negate that, because against a Pendulum deck, it's normally good, as you'll probably see. I'm not sure if you see it in this replay, to negate the actual Pendulum summon itself, and they try to get the 2 scales out and summon a bunch of stuff. But in this case, I have 2 Solemns, so I'm kind of down with just kind of throwing one out there. Especially considering I still have an Ash Blossom in hand as well. He doesn't exactly have many cards left in hand after that. Joyous Alliance, adds a card to hand, takes another 200. probably going to be Solemning that as well. Now he has absolutely nothing left. And this is where the Trickstar burn damage comes into play. So we top deck a Light Sage, really good draw. Light Sage searches for Candina. Candina on summon searches for Corobane. Then special summon it and go into battle. And each time one of these swings in, that counts as doing damage, so our opponent takes 200. Now from here, we could set up a nice little board like we did the last turn, summon out a Masquerena so we have like a quick effect pop. But in this case, our opponent's life points are looking awfully low, so yeah, you'll see what happens. If your opponent's life points are low versus this deck, the chance of them being able to play the game is very low. Draws a card, takes 400, down to 700 life points, activates a spell, takes 200 damage, takes 200 again from this spell. Also important to note, he just tried to add that card to hand, so Lycoris goes off again. And he gets burnt to death. So the burn damage really does add up over time if it's left alone. Alright, game 3. A lot of this deck's playstyle is going to be revolved around trying to go first, trying to get your Solemns out. If you don't get that kind of stuff, it's probably the main reason this deck's more of like a for fun deck rather than a top tier competitive deck, is it's only really good going first, and it relies very heavily on its trap cards to try to stay alive. It probably wouldn't be that way, but a lot of the Trickstar deck is super limited now. Like, I'm pretty sure it's the field spell that's limited to 1, and I think the trap card's also limited to 1, so it's been kind of, yeah, it's kind of been shoved a bit down by Konami. It's not really having a great time anymore. Probably for a good reason. I think this deck used to be a top tier deck in TCG a long time ago. Alright, so this time we're showing you the first of the Windwitch combos. So there's 2 monsters you can summon with the Windwitch opener. So Windwitch Ice Spell is your main starter. This card on summon will special summon Glass from deck. Glass on special summon will do a little bit, well, first of all, this card will do a little bit of burn damage. Then Glass will then add the Snowball to hand. Or the Snowbell. Snowbell from the control to, so if you control 2 more wind monsters, you can special summon it. And no non-wind monsters, so make sure you don't have the you don't try to go for a Trickstar summon first or anything like that, because this card does technically special summon itself. So okay, now this card, if you control no monster, special summons itself. Summon out the first of the Synchros, which is a little bit of burn damage, and then summoning into Crystal Wing. Candina searches for Reincarnation. This is because obviously we have Droll and Knockbird in hand, which is a combo you'll see later on. I don't think you get to see it in this replay, because I don't think my opponent gets to do a whole lot. This is just showing off the first summon you can do. Oh yeah, this is the oh yeah, you're probably going to see this as the intro for the video, I reckon. Opponent tries to do a Pendulum summon. God, I love it when my opponent plays Pendulum. Straight into a Solemn Warning. And since they all summoned at once, and they're gone. Opponent concedes instantly. Yeah, the purpose of that replay was purely to show off that the first monster you can summon is a Crystal Wing, the Crystal Wing boss monster, which you guys have probably seen before. It's a fairly common card, I think in like Speedroid and stuff. This card, once per turn when another monster activates an effect, you can negate the activation. If you do, destroy that monster. And if you do, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's attack. Also, this card battles a level 5 or higher monster. During damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to that monster's attack. So it's meant to be just a really big, powerful boss monster that's pretty hard to deal with, and because your opponent obviously can't beat over it, and it also has a nice little negation on it if you haven't got any back row to support yourself. This card can just, you know, support for you. Alright. Next replay. Which one are we up to? Is this one? No, it's not up to that. Alright, this will show the other Windwitch start. So you can go into Crystal Wing there, but there's also the actual Windwitch monster you can go into, which is a lot more fun in my opinion because it synergizes a little bit more with the Trickstar playstyle. But I thought it was important to at least show one replay of the Crystal Wing card. So again, special summon Windwitch, summons out Glass Bell, does a little bit of burn damage, and searches for Snowball. You can then special summon the Snowbell. Go into Winterbell. This is a little bit of burn damage. Then Synchro summon into Diamond Bell. Now this card is actually really cool. So for starters, when it's summoned, again, more burn damage. So before my opponent even started his turn, he's already at 5,500 life points. That's before any of the Trickstar burn damage has gone through. Plus, this card is basically whenever my opponent takes effect damage, or takes damage in general, I reckon, its effect will go off and it can destroy something on the board. So, yeah. If this card has Synchro summon, you target one witch monster in your graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent. You kill these effects once per turn. Once per turn, if your opponent takes battle or effect damage, you target one card on the field, destroy it. If you control this card that was Synchro summoned using only Windwitch monsters, which it is, you can do this twice per turn. So, very strong with something like a Candina on board, so if your opponent ever activates a spell card, or a spell trap card, I get to destroy a card they control. Alright, setting the cards and passing. I actually really want to show off a Scapegoat replay too. So I didn't get to show off any of these replays because I never had enough board slots to do it. But Scapegoat is a really cool card in this deck, as you can activate Scapegoat during my opponent's end phase. Then when the turn passes back to you, you can use all 4 of the tokens you summoned to then create just any Link 4 monster you like. You just Link 4 out any of the Knightmare monsters, then Link straight into a big Link 4 monster. It's a really cool card. I don't think I got any nice replays out of it though. Tries out to be Snowman, we're just gonna Ash Blossom that. Don't think I even know what this card does. I don't think I bothered reading it. Classic Yu-Gi-Oh player, not reading cards. But do get to do a little bit of burn damage. Right, tries to go to his end phase. In the end phase, we activate Lycoris to add back Candina to hand, so we can use it again next turn for more searches. In response, my opponent activates a Maxx for a draw 1. Which then gives him a card into hand, which will then trigger some burn damage, and activate my Diamond Bell's effect to destroy the trap card. Yeah, I think he just concedes from here. Alright, final replay. So yeah, like I said, today's replays aren't exactly going to be super exciting. I think I will do a live stream, probably actually after this video goes live, maybe a few hours afterwards, of just playing this deck in ranks later on, so you guys get a bit more gameplay with it, because I know these replays aren't that exciting. The whole purpose of them was just to show the main starts the deck has, so... Alright. This hand wasn't all that great, but... if you ever see a Droll and Lockbird in your hand, there is only one play to make. You activate your spell, search for Candina, normal summon Candina, and you want Reincarnation in hand. This card banishes your opponent's entire hand, and if it does, they draw the same number of cards. So, very, very cool card, because Droll and Lockbird, as you guys probably know, if a card is added to my opponent's hand, except by drawing it, you can send this to the graveyard, your opponent can no longer add cards to the hand for the rest of that turn. So, you have to wait for a time when your Droll and Lockbird is activatable. My opponent activates a Cyber Emergency, adding a card to hand. As soon as he adds the card to hand, we will then get the prompt to activate the Droll and Lockbird. First of all, we activate the Reincarnation. Then we change the Reincarnation, the Droll and Lockbird. Now my opponent banishes his entire hand, and because the Droll and Lockbird's effect has gone off, yeah, he now is left with no cards in hand. Very, very disgusting combo. And to be fair, it's kind of, I wouldn't say easy to play around, but it can be played around. And people should know if they see a Trickstar deck that this could happen, and they should be very wary of it. But to be fair, Trickstar isn't exactly meta anymore, so not a lot of people know about it. So yeah, just give yourself 3 wins. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's replays. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I think, like I said, I may be doing a live stream later tonight, or maybe tomorrow, of me just playing this deck in ranked, so if you want to see more gameplay of this, look out for that one. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and yeah, hope you see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.